ends up happening is that when we bottom out on inventory, which happens a lot in this market, when we bottom out, I reach out to the acquisitions guys, and then once we get a deal, we're working on it. And then, as we're selling that and stuff like that, I'm reaching out and getting more. So sometimes like I may go a week or two without reaching out to my acquisitions guys, because every now and then, for instance, I'll give you an example. One of our larger investors that we work with, I've been just adding value to her networking, helping her network with other people that are like helping her grow her business and her team. And in exchange, because I wasn't really asking for any money for this, it was just, adding value. She said, well, I want you to make some money because you've been helping me out a ton. So she gave me pieces of her inventory she wants to sell off. We're going to probably be selling 2 of those this week. We have showings set up. So I have 2 of those that I'm selling. And she gave me a package deal of 13 buildable lots that I have several developers and builders interested in buying, like in a subdivision. They're all in a subdivision. So I got those all from one of my buyers. So that was a lot of inventory that I got in. So at that point, when I have this inventory, it wouldn't be smart for me personally to go after more inventory with, go talk to my acquisitions guys and be like, hey, what are you guys working on? Because I would just overload myself with too much inventory. And then it's kind of, I don't do well with a ton of information all at once. I'm a very simple, like, let me work on 1 to 3 at a time. And then I'll add to that when I need to. Because I find that if I get too much information coming in, I can't focus super great. And then I'm not getting anything done and I'm not being effective. So that's, again, the way I'm personally wired. It could be different for somebody else who like has the ability to work on 10 deals at a time. God bless you, man, do it. But for me, like if I have the inventory in-house to where I know it's a good deal and I know it's going to sell, I'm working on getting it sold, because that's when the money happens, is when that stuff sells. It doesn't do any good to be sitting on inventory that you could make money on, but it's just sitting there. So I'm constantly working sales. And then when I'm getting low on inventory, I go back to my pool of inventory creation and make sure I get a few more deals in house that I can sell. So that's how I do it.
All right. So Josh, on Instagram, and we got people that are really interested in you pulling back the covers. So they're interested. Your last 2 deals, where did they come from? What was the backstory?
It's a good question. So my last 2 deals, so one of them, so this was again from my networking calls. They were from 2 different wholesalers. One was a package deal of 2 duplexes. It was a part of a investor's portfolio. They were getting out of the business, like 70 plus years old, tired of the landlord game, just wanting to kind of sell off these pieces of their inventory. So those 2 duplexes were down on Glenhaven Avenue. We were able to sell both of them. It wasn't a huge spread on it, but got them both sold to the same buyer. And they were just essentially turnkey rentals, nothing special. Both were cash flowing. They weren't updated really. They were just clean but outdated rentals. So we sold both of those. That was one deal. And then the other deal.
That was a good deal. I remember that deal. Glenhaven?
Yeah, Glenhaven. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. So that sold and closed about a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had another deal, also duplex. And we don't only work duplexes. It just happened to be one of those things. We got a ton of duplexes all at once. But so this other one ended up being a flip. We sold it to an investor who was looking for a flip. And the way that we got in touch with her was, so I met the person who had this under contract, another wholesaler, somebody I'm great friends with. And so she was trying to sell it. She hadn't been able to sell it yet. So I started working on it. I got a buyer who was going to make an offer on it it turned out that they were going to do better on it if they did the construction work on it and didn't purchase it themselves. So they passed me off to a person that they knew, who wanted to buy in that area. They did the construction part. She bought the property, and we got that deal done. So yeah, so that was the last two, and that one was on Joseph E. Boone. Was that duplex?
Ooh, I remember that deal as well.
Yep.
Nice. Yep. All right, let me kick it to Lewis. We're almost at the top of the hour, so I think we only got like 2 more questions if nothing comes in on our lives. But the lives has been really active. You're really putting on a show, Josh. Appreciate it, man. Lewis, back to you, buddy.
Since we're trying to get it all together, I'm gonna ask you a couple more big picture questions, because you seem like a big picture type of guy. What ignites you in a sense of injustice? Because there's a lot of stuff going on in the country. I want to pick your brain, see where you're at.
It's a good one. I'd say sex trafficking is a big one. My sister and her husband, they run a nonprofit for sex trafficking. They help sort of assist people who are in those situations. So that's something that's a big one. And then the other one is less loud, from that standpoint, and it's more, parents who aren't at home with their kids. They're working a ton of hours, they're away a lot, their kids are just locked in front of a screen. That's one of those things that I would love to help people figure out how to create financial wealth and time for themselves to be able to enjoy more time with their spouses, with their families. If they're single, just more time to create memories in life, create other meaningful relationships. I don't think the bulk of your life should be working for the man 9 to 5, all the time. Like, I think life is more than that. So I care deeply about people transitioning that thought process and really trying to invest in something that's gonna create more time and stuff for them to be able to spend time with their kids and have kids grow up with parents, who are there, who aren't absent.
I like that. You definitely passed the vibe test on that one. Next one is what's the greatest gift you think we can give each other? Just in terms of people in terms of humans as a species, what can we give to each other?
I think we're all kind of looking for love and sort of acceptance. One of my friends always made this quote that I thought was very true, but he said, God always does his best work in community. And I agree with that 100%. I feel like in American culture, this is something we get wrong a lot. We're a very individualistic society. We spend a lot of time alone. I think the best stuff that happens is when we're doing stuff together, whether that's church or social organizations or just friendships. So I think the best thing that you can give somebody is community, whether that's just your relationship with them or being able to introduce them to other relationships that can add value to their lives. So anyways, yeah, that's what I'd say.
And to culminate it all, what gives you hope?
Gives me hope. Gives me hope. I mean, my relationship with Jesus is a main factor of my faith. That's something that is a cornerstone of my life. But yeah, I think ultimately what gives me hope is kind of seeing the next generation to see people younger than me digging in, really trying to make stuff happen. Like a lot of the guys that do the acquisition side for me are getting started in real estate at like 20, 21. I met one dude who was like 16 years old. He was kind of like trying to start and make stuff happen. I had to get permission from his dad to even kind of do some work with him because he wasn't even a legal adult yet, And so I think that's something that gives me hope too, is just to kind of see this younger generation who's hungry to make a better life, and they're starting at really young ages. I mean, I didn't start wholesaling until like a few years ago, and I'm 39. So gosh, man, I wish I would have gotten started earlier. And it's cool to see a bunch of kids like you, just like hooking it up, man, learning this stuff, like digging in, like figuring out how to add value. I wish I would have started earlier, but it's cool to see that happening.
Mm. So you did.
All right, here's my last question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
See my speakers on. All right, cool. Final question to round this up. I want to talk about generational wealth and the role of real estate. And as you know, my W-2 is I'm an educator. I've been 20 years with our city school district. And, I've gone through, evolutions in that, Lewis is my oldest son. He wanted to do engineering. So I did everything to push him in that direction. He graduated with 4-year degree as an engineer. But now, as a wholesaler, I know a half a dozen engineers that are in real estate.
Yeah, man.
And I don't know many people in real estate that are trying to get into engineering.
Yeah.
And so, so I have my youngest now who graduates this year from high school. And a big, challenge in my household is, my wife doesn't see the push that I had for higher education the way I did with my oldest, because I see a different path.
Sure.
So if you could kind of share with, our audience, is our last question, from a generational wealth perspective, the value of higher education versus the value of informal education as it relates to business ownership and entrepreneurship.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a great question. And honestly, before I figure out the answer to that question, I have to ask myself, what is it that kid wants? What do they want in life? Like there are certain fields and professions. If somebody has a deep passion for being a doctor, my goodness, please go to a 4-year university and get the education you need to operate on people. That track is going to be very different from, say, a plumber or real estate, or, so it ultimately comes down to like, what do you love? Like, what do you want to do? Like, if you're more of the entrepreneurial mindset and you do want to create wealth, then, you kind of have to figure out like, what do you love to do, man? What makes you come alive, right? Like that's that question. It's like, what makes you come alive? You got to ask that question, because before you figure out what that is, sometimes a lot of time it's poking around the dark. You're trying to figure it out. And so, so as far as that goes, if you're looking to create wealth, my personal opinion is that higher education is not a great way to do that. I feel like people probably do a lot better with entering into some formal or informal internship, paid internship, whatever, like, back to, like, if we're talking about real estate specifically, I feel like the very best thing that you could do is find a mentor, find somebody who's already doing it, who's in line you want to be, figure out what books they're reading, figure out what podcasts they're listening to, figure out what kind of work they're doing, figure out how you can add value to their business, to what they're doing, and learn from them. So I'd say, as far as creating wealth, finding some kind of mentorship aspect is going to be key for that. And the sooner you can do that in life, the sooner you can start really generating wealth. But college isn't bad. I mean, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if there's something specific, if you want to be a teacher, my wife was a teacher for 10 years. And so she needed to go to college for that. So you got to first figure out what you want to do. And that'll kind of tell you like whether you need a 4-year education or a master's or PhD for that, or if it's something where it's like, oh, 4-year education isn't super important for that. I'm just going to go towards finding a mentor and, or a, if it's a blue collar job, like a plumber, like go to trade school, learn the trade, do an internship with a master plumber and work as a grunt laborer and do work with them until you figure out how to plumb. It's like, so at the end, you just have to figure out what you want to do and then figure out the best course to do that. So.
Man, I think you nailed it, brother. I think you really kind of put a lot of structure to it, because the goal is to get in your happy place. And if your happy place requires that you get a specialized form of education, then boom, let's encourage that. But I see, unfortunately, all too often as educators, we kind of push people into taking on a lot of student loans and a lot of debt.
Yeah.
And then they come out and then they're saddled with the debt and they kind of get into an employee kind of mindset. Yeah. And they stop trying to create.
Yeah, no, that's the truth. And I think parents are also guilty of that. We try to push our kids to do something that just for whatever expectation's sake is something we think we want for them. But, again, going back to that, just letting something organically happen on its own and guide that process, like as parents, as teachers, as educators, it's like, you're not trying to fill in the box for somebody. I found this out with counseling. I did some counseling and it's like, they weren't really answering my questions. They were like helping me figure that stuff out on my own. I think God does that for us. We're living life. I mean, he's not just giving us an easy canned answer. He's giving you some life experience that's going to probably kick your butt and you learn something that's more deep and rich than you could have figured out, because somebody they can hand you an answer, but you didn't have to work for that. And it didn't really teach you much either. Maybe you have the answer to the question. That's not how you get answers in life. You have to do the hard work, and that's tough, especially for this newest generation. But sometimes the answer can't be found the easy way. You gotta put in the hours and the hard work, and that can't be rushed. You can't just click the microwave and boom, easy button, done. Like sometimes you got to plant that seed, and you literally got to go through a whole harvest season to watch that seed grow and be able to harvest. So some stuff can't be rushed, talking to the millennials out there. Okay. You got to just put in the work. So.
Yeah, that's great advice, because we live in a microwave society. And, and so listen, brother, I got you in my calendar 6 months out because I want to bring you back to find out how you're doing with your 2021 goals and see what we've learned in the process. How's that sound?
I'd love it.
All right, man. Well, listen, guys, that's a wrap, man. We got another one in the books. We want to thank Josh. And as always, man, we're Real Housing Relief, and we are revitalizing our community one property at a time. Thank you, guys. God bless, Josh.
Thanks so much, Joe.
Here, buddy.